column I wrote today on defunding Obamacare. I've got a column up at rightlyconcerned.com. If the rule of law means anything, Obamacare can be defunded. Now, let me see if I get to the website and find out how many people have signed the petition. We talked about it last week. The Don't Fund ObamaCare.com. All right, here we go. Let's see where we're at as the website opens up. How many people have signed it? When I wrote the column, it was about 198,800 and something. Now we're over 200,000. 200,118 people, as we begin to talk about it today, have signed the petition at don'tfundobamacare.com. Remember, no apostrophe in the don't. Don'tfundobamacare.com. 200,000 people have signed it. Now, what Ted Cruz and Mike Lee are planning to do is to present a continuing resolution at the end of September that will fund the entire federal government except for the implementation of Obamacare. That's the only thing that will not be in the continuing resolution that they are proposing, is the money that Obama is asking for to implement Obamacare. The rest of the government, all 100% of the rest of the government, will be funded at the same level it was this year. So even there's a lot of stuff in there we don't like, they're going to propose that we fund the government at the same level. That means, and get this in your heads because this is going to become important if this gains any traction, that if the government shuts down, it will only be because President Obama has shut it down, because the Republicans will be offering him a continuing resolution that would fund every last little bit of the federal government except for the sliver that's involved in implementing Obamacare. That's it. So if he wants to shut down the government over that, then he's the one that's shutting down the government. The Republicans are the ones that are presenting a piece of legislation that will make the funding of the government possible. Now, the point that I make in the column is similar to what we talked about last week, that if the rule of law means anything, then this approach to defunding Obamacare will, in fact, work. I mentioned this Congressional Research Service. They produced an 11-page analysis, and a lot of people are citing this Congressional Research Service piece as a reason why this defunding strategy will not work. Now, we've talked about this before. I don't want to belabor it, but because of Harry Reid, the Senate has not produced a budget in 4 years. There has been no federal budget since President Obama took office. The government has been funded by continuing resolutions, and that's one of the ones that's coming up at the end of September. It's got to be approved by September 30, or there won't be discretionary funds for October 1st. So that's what this is all about. Something has to be done by September 30th if the government is to continue to function at the same level. Now, it's very, very clear from the Congressional Research analysis that President Obama is asking for close to $1.5 billion in new appropriations. And the CRS piece even spells out, a Congressional Research Service, supposed to be a bipartisan, nonpartisan research agency arm of the federal government, of Congress. And there are three things that President Obama wants to do with this $1.5 billion. He wants to establish the federally facilitated exchanges. Secondly, he wants to build out the information technology, this federal data hub, which is an enormous threat to our personal privacy. We'll talk about that. We've talked about that before. We'll talk about it again. And third, to conduct consumer outreach and education. This is all the money that he wants to give to Planned Parenthood and to his favorite union buddies and his favorite community organizing groups and agitating groups to go out door to door to try to sell people on Obamacare, and while they're there, register them for the Democratic Party. So President Obama is asking for $1.5 billion that he does not have. And he has to have this money if he is going to establish the exchanges, if he's going to build that monstrosity of a data hub, and if he is going to do the community outreach that he wants to do. Now, if this money is not appropriated in the upcoming continuing resolution, it cannot constitutionally be spent. No CR, no money, no Obamacare. Now, this is not going to repeal Obamacare, but it means that Obamacare cannot be implemented as written. The exchanges won't be built, so there'll be no place for people to go to buy insurance off the federal exchanges. The information technology platform is not going to be built, so there'll be no access point for all this personal information. And the Americans that don't know anything about Obamacare have no idea. 43% of uninsured Americans have no idea that Obamacare is the law of the land. They would continue to be blissfully ignorant. Now, President Obama will probably try to find a way around this, but there is no constitutional or legal way for him to do it. Remember, the Constitution says no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. So no continuing resolution, no money, no Obamacare. It's a beautiful thing. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.